A lot going on I wanted to give you an update on, specifically around where we are in terms of the project. So you might recall back earlier this spring where we announced that Odell Associates out of Charlotte has been selected as the architect for the project. Odell is a very large, actually international firm. They do a tremendous amount of healthcare work, done quite a bit of work for Wake Forest Baptist Health. Certainly very qualified to be able to provide this work. So the other exciting news was the selection of Vinoy Construction to be the general contractor for the project. Very, very excited about that because of their regional presence and their knowledge in and around this area. So it means a lot to us to be able to work with someone such as themselves, who over the last 10 plus years has also become a big player in healthcare construction. The reason they were brought on board early on was to actually assist in value engineering, if you will, in terms of assessing the original plans, looking for opportunities for improvement. We all know time is money in construction. And so to have them on board and in sync with the architect is a great way to do things, and Wake Forest certainly prefers that process. We also formed a steering committee that represents really what you call the ownership structure. It has key representatives from Wake Forest Baptist Health, a lot of them on the facility side, since they do a tremendous amount of capital work. Hugh Chatham Memorial has a number of representatives. Our own local representatives participate in that steering committee, and that's sort of the vetting process, the clearinghouse for the project as we go forward. The actual schematic design and the user group work started the first week in May. And of course, that's all of the services that are going to be directly impacted. A tremendous amount of the hospital will be impacted in one way or another. So the schematic design process and all the user work groups started meeting the first week of May. We've had a series of basically weekly meetings the whole month of May to sort of plot the needs. Many of these center around doing some interim planning, because as we begin demolition of parts of the hospital, there are some departments that will be impacted both short-term and long-term. You want to try to limit the interim moves, but it's inevitable. Sometimes you have to do it in order to build back what we need and what we're going to have at the end of the project. You're going to have some temporary locations during the interim period. So where we are in that process is at the last week in June, the steering committee will basically receive the schematic design of the plans as they relate, and somewhat of a phasing schedule, if you will, on where we go forward. Assuming that is approved, we have no reason to believe it won't, because representatives from the owners, along with the local team, is involved in setting those designs. Then what will happen then is that will be turned over to the contractor to then do the pricing, the guaranteed maximum pricing. And at the end of July, then you would have the approvals to go forward with the general contractor to begin to initiate work. The first thing they're going to do in August, then, at that point, you'll have your utilities, all your final utilities design plans. You'll be doing design development. And while the DDs are all in approval process at both the local and the state level, then they can go ahead and be looking at all the utility relocations that have to be done from the old parts of the building that are being torn down over to where the new construction is going to begin. And at the same time, they will also be making all of their demolition plans. Because basically what's going to happen is from the Doughton wing, pretty much that cut line from south to north on Doctor Street will run right through Doughton wing and what's right behind there, and everything to the west going over to the solarium, that end of the building, as everything comes down. So they've got to go ahead and plan for the demo during that period of time, and the target date to begin that demolition of those sections of the building is October. What the goal is to have that demo done, believe it or not, before long will be in wintertime. And that has a little bit of impact on construction sometimes, especially foundations and when you're starting new construction. So the target date is by December 1st to have the demo ready, foundations beginning, so they can start erecting that new building. We don't have the final timeline from start to finish. The dates being chatted around are somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 to 18 months. So if you look at it from that perspective, I think it's safe to say that if we start in the fall, what you call the fourth quarter of the calendar year, End of the first quarter 2021, March, April of 2021, I think is a reasonable timeline. It basically consists of two phases: the construction of the new medical office building, which consolidates all the physician practices, those hospital services that are displaced from the demo, pulling physical therapy back off the hill into the main building, so you have one point of entry for all hospital services. And then phase two is pretty much the renovations to the ED while keeping it going so that we can relocate the inpatient beds adjacent to and as part of a larger suite so that we can manage with one clinical team your inpatient population and your ED population all in one site. So that end of the building, what we all know as the new addition in 2003, is actually going to be phase two of this project. So that gives you a pretty good idea of where we are in terms of the project. I will answer any questions you have on the project timeline. I did ask Ricky Brown as a board member and as chair of the campaign to be here. He may want to make a couple of statements in terms of board governance, but I did want to share a couple of things unrelated to that project just while I'm here with you. Is that this past year we completed our 3-year Joint Commission accreditation, so we were reaccredited for another 3 years. We had a fantastic result of that survey last summer. In the fall, the lab was reaccredited for another 2 years. Our sleep lab program just went through its initial accreditation of sleep medicine program from the American Academy of Sleep Disorders. All the programs, they want those programs to be accredited to continue to do Medicare services. We have a 5-year accreditation with that. Since I was last year, we've expanded both pulmonology and ENT clinics. We've gone from 2 to 3 days a month with them. And just last week, Ryan Short, family nurse practitioner, joined Alleghany Health Services, replaced Liz Jones, and he's up and running as we speak. So I just wanted to sort of give you a couple of hospital updates, but certainly we'll answer any questions you might have related to the project and where we are, but it's full steam now. Pretty much every day we're talking about this project. Yes,
Since the change and how things are going, how's things going with patients, with emergency room, with transportations, and kind of how is that going from day to day?
Yeah, we've had the change in sort of the staffing model to sort of make our model match our volume. We only have 2 documented transfers over the last 9 months of patients because we were full, because your inpatient volume is just such a small part of what we do. And of course, the good news is both of them went to Hugh Chatham. I mean, we want to, if we're going to have to manage some transfers beyond what our capacity is, we want them to stay in the system. Obviously, the things that need to go to Wake Forest have always gone and will continue to go to Wake Forest, unless there's patient or family preference for another facility. We all know that. But I actually met with Dr. Bryan as EMS Medical Director Friday, and we went through really all the transfers so far year to date, and we only have 2 that were noted because we were at capacity. It just doesn't happen. It's just the nature of the small community hospitals. They are just basically an ambulatory outpatient facilities now. So just to give you some perspective, our average census for our inpatient and OBS is about 3.5 per day. And, of course, our new building is going to have 3 licensed beds plus observations. So we clearly will be able to handle the things that we need to be able to do on a go-forward basis, which is one of the innovative things that I spoke with this group about earlier. The communities that have made that pivot are the ones that are actually thriving because they realize they don't need that infrastructure anymore, and they've adjusted their facilities to match that.
Timeline report and update was really what we were needing, just kind of where we are in this. I was at an appointment over there a couple of weeks ago, and I seen some folks walking through with some plans and whatnot, but I had no clue what it was for.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I'm more than happy to do it anytime.
Any other questions or comments?
Are the employees being advised?
Yes. We've been very transparent as we walk through this process to do regular meetings, as we have impacts, and as we announce plans so that we can phase it in to let different folks know that where we are in terms of the process and what that impact's going to be. Yeah.
Going to be doing announcements to the paper or keeping the paper informed? Because the biggest problem that we have in this community, we're limited on where we can get information, and rumor control runs rampant
Absolutely.
around here.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we've added, John, has been, we had a transition in our marketing and foundation director, and we have a new director who moved up, who actually established a Facebook for us. Ours is pretty well dormant. We're using Facebook quite a bit. And we had an announcement on a couple of weeks ago, and we basically have it set up phased, so we hit these key milestones. For instance, at the end of June, once we have those steering committee approvals, we're really driving those press releases by the steering committee. When they say, we want that schematic design, then we're following that over the press release. At the end of July, when they say, okay, we've approved the budget, then we do a second one. So we're timing them now, because when you're doing schematic design, you're doing a lot of rolling up the sleeves, not a lot of fancy fluff at that point. But now that we have these key timelines, we follow every one of those approvals up. That's when we will do the press releases.
The community impression was you would be turning dirt in the spring.
Right.
And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
haven't turned dirt?
No, that's
So
right.
now
That's
it
right.
runs rampant.
What are you doing? That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Without understanding that
You
lead
took our
time.
money, now what are you doing?
Right, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, thank you for the update.
Yeah, and we
And
did
looking forward to
we
it.
did a direct to donor release about 6 weeks ago, specifically with those timelines too, so that all the donors would have that.
Do with the old physical therapy building.
That's scheduled to implode. It's beginning to, it doesn't, it's got a lot of leaks in it already, but it's scheduled to actually come down.
How many employees do you expect to employ after the first quarter
It's all
of
done.
21?
Of 2021, as opposed to what we have now, the combination roughly over that period of time, Bobby, we will go from, I'll use round numbers, roughly right now, that's 100. Not all of those are on our payroll, because one of the things that happened after the merger was all the revenue cycle work was outsourced to the Wake Forest vendor. It's the same people, but they technically don't work for us, but I'm going to include them in this count for our purposes. They're not on our payroll, but we're paying for them because we pay the fees for the firms. It'll be roughly from 100 to around 65 when it's all said and done. And some of that's already occurred. Some of that consolidation has already happened over the last 12 months.
So 100 down to
To
around
about 65, yeah.
65 in
Yeah.
that number.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. The next big jump occurs when the renovated ER inpatient unit happens. And to your point about, John, to your point about internal, we actually had that initial communication with the inpatient staff October of 17, almost, that long, I'm sorry, October of 18, we started planning with them. And they understand that, and they're willing to, at this point, work with us on it.
And you've been going through quite a change in the last few
Oh, yeah.
months, personnel
Mm-hmm.
and reorganizing and
Yeah.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, if I'm not mistaken, when EMS would bring somebody to the hospital, the old system would help restock the ambulance. I believe right now that that's not happening, or is it happening?
I'm not aware of any change in what we do, other than what the guidelines require. Mike, unless you know of anything.
I think there's some regulations have changed about
Yeah, there's limits on what we
what
can
you
do.
guys can give us. I think.
Right,
Now,
because
some of it's driven by that.
It's driven more about regulatory limits in terms of inurement or buying referrals.
The impact was on the rescue squad.
Rescue squad,
Rescue
yeah,
squad.
primarily.
Yeah, rescue squads were the ones that were impacted, yeah. And that really wasn't driven by a policy decision, that was a regulatory decision.
So it's more the rescue squad is not being
Right, that's-
restocked?
Yeah, that's primarily, yeah, and it has to do with, I think the ER was a little lax in enforcing the regulations. I mean, you can't just take a Schedule IV drug and give it to another agency,
It's more
I think
about
we
the
were a
co-
little lax about that.
Well,
before, I
as
think.
all hospitals have
Yeah.
been, because they have those collaborative relationships, because those are your partners. We're all delivering health care together. However, the regulatory agencies begin to say, well, it looks like you might be inducing them to use you versus is that really the right place for the patients to be delivered? You get enough regulatory review, eventually they start tying your hands a little bit. Nothing intentional, nothing intentional being implied by it. It's just that those are your working relationships in your community.
So if the rescue squad uses IVs or something, making a call, they don't get reimbursed, or the hospital
Right.
doesn't restock that.
That's right. That's
Not-
right.
Yeah, not necessarily. I
That's
mean,
right.
Some items they can, but drugs, that's what's expensive. And it's
Right, that's the
drugs that they
expensive stuff, and we
they
can't
restock
do
them
that.
with.
Those are controlled issues and
Yeah.
regular.
But I think in the budget, you're asking for additional money to restock the rescue squad, or?
I think you're thinking about where they were going to be working the football games. Yeah, we gave them, I proposed $300 per football game, partly for their time and partly for supplies that they may use during the course of the game, yeah.
But that's all it's related to?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not if they go on call to a road accident or something like that, then the hospital does replenish?
Generally,
Oh,
no. They're
generally,
not going to be
no.
able to replenish medication. They may
That's correct.
give them some extra Band-Aids or
Because
things like
you
that.
need
but-
it, or you got, yeah, you're low, or say, hey, can we get some till we get our next ones? You know, that within certain guidelines, we'll help them out, yeah. But not on pharmaceuticals, no.
One quick question.
Yeah,
I
Bill.
understand you say that the patients has a preference as to which hospital they can go when they
Absolutely,
leave.
always do, always
I
do.
just got that question yesterday from a.
Always
from a lady.
do.
Right.
Patient first,
Right.
yeah. If not, typically it's your ER doctor that'll recommend. And it often will depend on the service line. If there's something that is specific, a burn unit is going to have only a limited number of places you can go, yeah.
And we fight that with Medicaid. Medicaid is really
That's right.
strict on the closest appropriate facility. So it's important that the ER doc diagnoses them exactly, and we understand, so, because, Hugh
Mm-hmm.
Chatham may have a service, Baptist may have a service, Hugh Chatham doesn't. But if it's not written up correctly, Medicaid thinks we could have taken them to Hugh Chatham, then we're not going to get reimbursed
All about
for
the
ambulance.
documentation. You got to be able to
Yeah.
document why you have that need.
So
for
that's
transfer
where,
medicine.
and if patient may want to go to Baptist, we'll say, well, Medicaid's only going to pay for you to go to Hugh Chatham.
Correct.
And technically, it's their decision, but we'll try to convince them maybe to go to Hugh Chatham,
Well,
just as an example.
A
That's
lot
right.
of patients don't understand all that.
No, it's
it doesn't.
confusing.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of hard to think of it whenever you're hurting, too.
You better believe, yeah, you're not exactly in the right frame
Yeah,
of
you
mind.
got a broken leg and morphine drip, yeah, it's a little hard to think
You're not
about that.
comprehending.
Or they think you're having a heart attack.
Yeah.
I think Larry kind of didn't get finished a minute ago.
Larry, I'm sorry.
Would the hospital consider a good faith donation of that building to the county?
Why we couldn't? I mean, at this point, it's empty and scheduled to be not occupied again, but,
The reason I'm asking.
no,
that,
that's fine.
Let Josh take a look at it, because size-wise, I think it'd be ideal for an animal shelter.
We want that noise that close to the hospital.
It would probably depend on the parameters of the need, but we could certainly talk with our board about it. No, next to the old health department. Sits over in the corner.
Worth looking into,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Anyone else?
Ricky, did you want to add anything as a trustee?
No, other than to say that the board is functioning well. And to under the probably more. But all have been. I would almost. Year, partners. All the different. Help. How does. About wellness. And absolutely. Something. Our service. Don't go there. On, I heard all kinds of stuff. Kind of control the community and not let.
Is there any preference to giving some of the work to subcontractors for the people in the county? Have you discussed that with the primary contractor?
On a limited basis, but yes, certainly that was a discussion they had on the front end. Of course, and Bobby, to that point, the subs are the area that Vinoy is most concerned about just in terms of supply, just because there's been such a shortage of them recently. But typically you try to do that because it's beneficial for them too, closer in, keeps their overhead down, provided they can demonstrate prior experience in the line of work. But it's always typically done, and that's the great thing about having Vinoy. They're already going to know the subs in this region that could do the work, which is another great thing about having them as our partner. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you again for your support.
Clears up a lot.
All right, number 2, presentation number 2. Yeah. Yeah, you're on the agenda, the unwritten one. Welcome.
Good afternoon. We are here to discuss potential of making Davis Field into 2 ball fields. And one of the reasons, talking with Jim earlier today, just to confirm some numbers, He has 11 teams right now in recreation sports, baseball and softball, that are trying to practice and play games as we speak.
So the letters that we received were identifying an actual problem. Okay.
So we've got 5 coaches pitch teams, 3 T-ball teams, an 11 and 12-year-old all-star team, a 9 and 10-year-old all-star team, and now a 9 and 10-year-old girls softball team. So basically what we have done is we've went up to Davis Field and laid it out every way that we can, and we have came up with putting 2 200-foot fences on what is up there right now. What that does for us is 200-foot fences covers every recreation baseball or softball sport as far as gyms and recreation here in Alleghany County is concerned. 2 fields obviously doubles the amount of fields that we can get on that is ours. Now, we do partner with the school, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we don't, but it's also hard to get in on those fields whenever you have this amount of teams. When high school baseball and middle school baseball is going on, towards the end of their season, recreation sports are starting, and that's when it gets difficult because they're practicing every evening or playing games every evening. When you've got high school playing on Jarrett Field, middle school playing on Davis Field, and then Lady Trojan playing on the Lady Trojan softball field, that don't leave much. We had 2 fields below the school bus garage. One of those recently just got turned into a soccer field. So now we have 1 short fence down there that really is only good for T-ball and coaches pitch.
And it's still not really that good because there's not bathroom facilities down there. I would have to go and rent a porta-john and put on the facility, on the property to be able to offer bathroom facilities. Or ask the school to allow us to go into the gymnasium, which is kind of a tough pickle to put them in.
So we've done some figuring, and we've came up, the fence is going to be the most expensive part of the project.
There's a bunch laying at the tennis courts up there. Maybe we could refurbish it.
Yeah. But the reason we were kind of wanting to go ahead and just get this out before the budget conversation was over was because of the Beamer money. You know, it's intended, my view of it's intended for recreation. And there's nothing more in this county as far as everybody coming together that I see. I've been a part of it for 4 years and volunteering my time is the baseball and softball is where the youth, you know, they're there.
Is this an outlier year for the number of teams? Is this something?
It is. We've never had this amount of.
Why are we where we are, and where do you think we're going?
Could it be the online registration system?
And it could be the fact that part of the 9 through 12-year-olds got all their registration paid for. I don't know. This is an anomaly that I really cannot answer to because, I mean, it's a good anomaly for us because we show great numbers and being able to get kids outside instead of stuck in front of a television or in front of electronic. Then, I mean, we're doing our job.
Second, third grade school enrollment is up.
It's
The
also
last
gonna,
couple of years. So.
it's also going to help you with your grant request, aren't you?
Right.
Showing the need.
Do you have a budget? I mean,
We figured for 2, basically, if you think about Lady Trojan Field, that's what we're looking for at Davis Field times 2. Now, that fence is black coated. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's going to be that way. But with 2 200-foot fences and the grading that would have to be done, we're in the ballpark of $50,000.
That would give you 2 fields.
Instead of one big 300.
You'd have 1 set of concession stands that's already there.
It's already there.
You already have the bathrooms that are already there. They could be shared.
Yep.
Yep.
The only thing you'd have to do was some grading
If,
and a fence.
Yeah, I mean, there's options there of moving some dirt and making it 3 fields. Obviously, your price is going to go up, but it's not going to go up a tremendous amount. If you think about it up there in left field, if you're standing at home plate and looking out to left field, you've got the bank there, then it turns into the mountain, which the trees have never been cut on. That bank would have to completely go and about another 50 feet up into the woods Now, I don't know there's been conversation and talk about rock being in there, may have to get dynamite and so on and so forth. That's kind of why I haven't went that far with it yet. But getting 200-foot fences up there would tremendously help the recreation, baseball and softball in this county.
Wood on it to sell?
I'm sorry.
Enough wood on it to sell?
No, it's not.
No.
That's young growth where they cleared it when they built Davis Field, and it don't have really any potential for any lumber.
The way you're talking about laying out for two at this time, and then the potential third one, would it make a difference how you do the two now as to adding the third one? It would be a different arrangement, probably?
It would be. They've got a design now, and Wilkes County's got a really good version of it. So you've got basically a tower that goes pretty much in the middle of your complex. So it's your concession stand, bathrooms, your press box, and then you have a clover leaf, 4-leaf clover that goes around that for your 4 fields. So, I mean, that would be our magic ability to do that, but with 2 fields, we would put one in left field, one in right field, and then the outfield would kind of butt together.
And those would all be 200-foot fields.
What about parking?
Well, that's also been discussed. The Lions Club, trees,
The poplars
poplar trees.
that are there,
If we could get rid of those, which a lot of those are dying, we need to do something about that anyway.
they are starting to
They are
deteriorate.
property.
They're all on
Okay.
the Recreation Commission's property.
Now, there's playground equipment closer up to the building. I'm not saying disturb it. But if we stayed below that, there's another parking area. You're probably going to fit another 50 vehicles in that parking lot. And you can leave it gravel. It doesn't have to be paved.
Would there be some able to help grading and
I mean, part of grant would help in everything. But you've got to also
maybe
think.
leverage some of these dollars for?
Right, you also have to think that it's a 50-50 match, so we would have to come up with the 50% somewhere.
Looking at if whatever we do, if we're going to have to put some money in.
Right.
If we could leverage that to some grant money to maybe expand all that,
and do the clover leaf.
kind of throwing everything up.
And then use money as the.
Fine, I mean, this is something that couldn't take place until fall, because Jim is hosting the big tournament here this year, and the second week of July, and he's also got to get through his minor league and T-ball season also.
You're basically going to looking at home plate up in that far left corner and then that bottom right corner
Home plate here,
and up there.
home plate there,
Yeah.
and center field here on both fields, and there'll be about.
How far out in the woods is the disc golf?
The disc golf goes, hole 1 starts here, and then the first hole is about right here. But it's off, I mean, it's a good, Josh? 50 feet off this corner here, back into the woods. So I don't think it would mess with it
See,
at
and I
all.
know the back 9 is well
Yeah, the
away
back
from
nine
it. It's
and
across,
all the
it's
rest of
across the
it's
creek
way-
down there.
Into the
Yeah.
woods.
I've walked it.
And we actually got hole 2 completed today.
What's that area there? Is that an existing ball field? Right there, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Davis
that's Davis
Field.
Field.
Oh, okay.
That's the single
So right-
320.
so
Put it diagonally, basically.
So currently, the home plate is
Right
where,
there.
Josh?
Yeah,
Right
there
there.
where his cursor
Yeah.
is.
So if you do the clover leaf, you're gonna have to reverse
Your home plates will go to the.
So you would have a tower pretty much here, and then clover leaf, clover leaf, clover leaf, clover leaf.
You're going to need to clear some of this out to do that,
Right,
right?
yeah.
To
It's
do the
all-
4.
That'll all be backfilled from up above, moving dirt back down to the bottom.
We can deliver the tree.
Want it
Close,
cut and
dude.
split?
We're gonna use it as wood to build the new senior center is what we're gonna do, actually. Cut it into 2x4s.
You'd have to add one scoreboard.
No, we would have to eventually have a scoreboard per field. That's not a requirement. There does not have to be a scoreboard there, but
But it's something that you could plan for. You
That's
could
right.
lay your electricity now
that's right.
and have a fundraiser or something
Yeah.
on down the road.
Yeah.
At one time, Coca-Cola used to put them in, or
Yeah.
Pepsi, or whoever.
And I think Skyline and Brimco put in the scoreboard or helped donate the money for the scoreboard at the football field
And get their name.
and got their name on it.
Before Davis Field was built, that was all trees. It was sort of a mountain, part of the mountain. That dirt was moved down to the to the new high school. It was all fill dirt. And they didn't have any trouble digging that dirt. I mean,
Okay.
there was no rocks.
Okay.
I was
So you're
giving
talking
my
about
kids
bringing,
this morning,
extending this parking over this way?
The parking would basically, if we took out these poplar trees. Basically, your parking lot would be. This will be great. Your handy. And stay great.
I personally, I'd like to explore the option of 4 fields and then back up if we just can't do it, but.
Anything that get the kid, God bless it.
We're in that 50, 55, whatever.
I think it'd be 50 max, and that's us purchasing the materials and then hiring the installation of the fence.
Same people that are doing the tennis
That's for two.
court.
that's for two.
That's for
We're
two.
talking 4.
Probably double.
I'd say $25,000 a field would be a good estimate at, right now, the way I'm talking is renting a track hoe, a big track hoe. And I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, Joey operating it now, but I'm renting it for a month's time. And then that's also taking the top and leveling up for the parking lot. And then if there's anything that needs to be moved out in left field, moving it on around to right field.
When do your grants come up? Now
The
we
next
got-
part of grant comes up in, the deadline is in May of 2020.
You're looking at this to be operational this time next year.
Yeah, that would be nice.
For the 2 fields.
Yeah.
Right, depending on whether we're going to go to the 4.
If you, then for the part of grants, when would we find out?
I think you find out if you want it in June. I think it's in June they announce the winner.
So whenever you get started on the 2, we get the part of grant, then we could expand it to 4 relatively easily.
The 2 would give us the big start. I mean, that's gonna be basically going in, all the fencing be removed, that's there now. The 2 dugouts would be removed, but the concession stand and that whole building will be left alone. And the parking lot.
You need 50,000.
Yeah. Now that 50,000, 25,000 of that, is that the number? No, 30,000 of that is, the fencing. So if something happened was gonna go forward, that wouldn't be in this $50,000.
Understand, but we're hoping we'll get the
Right.
part of grants because now we've got a 10-year plan.
Right. We've
Which
got our
we
10
were
years.
short before,
Yep.
and we've got this year's census showing that we are short.
Right, yeah. It's a need.
It's a need.
It's even in our plan that it's a need.
Okay.
You're roughly looking for 50,000 out of the Beamer money.
For 2 fields.
Or 2 fields, but there's possibility of doing 2 more fields.
Yeah.
And making it a 4 total. If we do 2 now, and then we expand to 2 more later, how much of the investment for the 2 fields are we gonna lose?
Now, I think with that part of grant, we have to do we have to spend the money for the architecture, design. I mean, they have to do all that stuff, and it has to be done. It's about a 9-month process that I would have to start on at ASAP and get with my regional director or regional consultant to help try to get everything done.
This one field could be done with that in the future, that we could add one or two more.
I mean, you'd be doubling your cost of fencing if you did it that way. I mean, it would be, you'd be putting new fence up now to tear it back down if you decided to turn it into 4 fields.
The 4 fields be totally utilized now. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
could be done, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And we could actually project or advertise and bring some of these Top Gun tournaments or some of these other big league tournaments into the county because we would have the facility. And Josh mentioned this earlier, I'm hosting the 11 and 12-year-old All-Stars in July 8th through it's Monday through Saturday. And the only field that I can play on is Davis Field because of the length of the field plus the length of the infield when it comes to the 70-foot bases. So that's the only field that I can play on when it comes to that 11 and 12-year-old tournament. And I'm praying that we don't have rain or we'll run a little long with us playing at night from 5:30 and playing 2 games a night, 5:30 and 7:30.
If you do what you're saying, you're gonna lose that opportunity?
No, I think we can make the infields big enough to where it'll accommodate a 70-foot base and be able to have the infielders be comfortable in the dirt instead of being right off the edge of the grass. I've tried to use Lady Trojan in the past with that age group, and it's the field here. But when we've tried to put 70-foot bases out here, you've got the shortstop. He usually is back behind the base path, and he was in the grass. And that's not really a good typical, especially on the infield that you could be comfortable because you've got that lip, and you don't want that lip popping that ball into your face.
I see.
When would something like this start if we approve the money?
It would be when school starts back, once T-ball and coaches pitch is over with.
You would start in the next few months.
Oh, yeah, it could be started in, August, September.
Well, I think there's consensus here pretty well for at least the 2.
Do it.
But I would pursue measure it off for the 4 and look at the topo, estimate the grading, and see how much you're gonna have to move around and I think that the goal should be for that, but then if the best we can do is 2, and then when you sort of made a determination, or give us some numbers for the 4 and the 2.
Well, and to elaborate on that, whenever the dirt starts being moved, whether it be from the parking lot or from left field, we can go ahead and, start preparing that dirt to be moved over here to right field, which is going to broaden
Ideal
the
spot to
footprint.
put it
Right.
in. You
Yeah,
gotta
it
put
is.
it somewhere.
That's right.
And it'll actually expand it even more to where we could possibly not have to move any more dirt and have a good solid ground for the 4.
Would this impact more the children in the county than anything you can think of,
Yes.
recreation-wise?
I think so, because baseball, softball is our number 1 attended sport right now. Soccer was probably 7, 8 years ago, but it has dwindled just because I think a lot of the kids are being kind of interested in actual American football instead of the football from Spain and stuff like that. So we still have 100+ when it comes to soccer. Since I've been here, I don't think we've ever had 160 like we do now with baseball, softball. Now, you come to me next year, I may only have 120. I don't know. We try to give each kid a good experience for them to keep playing and keep advancing and keep learning, which Josh has shown that his kids can really advance under some good coaching because he actually won the bi-county tournament this year between us and Ashe County. So his team are the champions with that, so we're hoping they're going to do good in this tournament against 6 other teams coming. We've got a team coming from all the way from Yancey County. during that July tournament, so.
I won't be able to play time I get here.
Well, I think if you look at the
Car set,
intent
yeah.
of the Beamer money was outdoor recreation. And to me, by far, 50, 55, whatever the number is, this would impact more people in the county than anything we've used it for so far.
Any
Just
other?
refresh everybody where we are on the outdoor recreation fund.
Yeah.
So this was before we appropriated about $5,000 last meeting, so we're at about 132,000, call it right now, so.
The money's there.
Is that 5, 4, I'm trying to remember.
That was the stables down at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Now, I can absolutely.
Well, that was needed. Of the stage, we think we had paid, we actually appropriated 12, but we think we got the stage covered already,
Okay.
but yeah.
I will definitely email my consultant for our region today and just touch base with her to see, kind of see if she can't come up, talk to me, sit down with us, see what we need architectural-wise, engineering-wise, and all that good stuff for that facility, and help. I mean, she's supposed to be able to help us go through this part of grant step by step to try to get us the amount of points that we need to be qualified to get this awarded to us.
See what you find out there and give us a holler back, and we'll have a discussion and a decision for you on kind of which way makes the most sense.
Of course, the recreation fund kind of crosses budget year, so we don't have to do
Right.
anything today as we approve
Yeah.
next year's budget. That, the
It'll-
fund will
it'll carry-
cross
it'll
budget
still be
years,
there.
so.
But it would be approved in this budget.
No, it doesn't have to be. The fund, that fund crosses budget years, so you can do it anytime, so. Basically, those budgets, those other funds, we sort of approve the whole money and then look at it appropriation by appropriation. It doesn't have to be decided by June, does not have to be decided by June 30th, so.
Roll over.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, before we get officially over into our discussion, we just want to make sure we did change next week's meeting. We do have I think everybody on board with changing it to the 19th, 9 a.m. on the 19th in lieu of 9 a.m. on the 18th. We all good on that?
Yes.
Ms. Clerk, could you email everybody just as a reminder? I think everybody's got it already down, but, all right. Get that. We did get confirmation. Chad Beasley and Mike DeBose was requesting to come, or was going to plan to come to the 18th, and Chad can come to the 19th.
That can come on the 19th. I've not. I
And we
don't-
do need to reach out to
Yeah.
Mike and make him aware. And are we expecting any other presentations? Have we heard of anybody else wishing to? Okay. All right, good. Okay, and
Did the sheriff come make one?
not that I've heard.
That was what I was going to ask about now.
Yeah, at this time, John did make mention that he had some questions for clarification or information, so.
At the end of last year's budget, there was not an SRO in that budget that I remember. And I've talked to Larry, you didn't remember an SRO in that budget. How do we now have two SROs?
No, they were both in the budget. We had that school resource officer separate department. We only put one in there. We were transitioning away from that. And we basically had one paid for in the sheriff's line and one paid for in the school resource officer department, basically is what we had this past year. This year, we're doing away with the school resource officer department, and everybody's under the sheriff's payroll, all the school resource officers. That was because we weren't going to charge the school any reimbursement for that second position, so we didn't need to have it in the separate department.
With the addition of two, we're gonna have a school resource officer in all schools.
That was the consensus from previously, yeah.
It wasn't a consensus, not on this end.
Well, we looked at that, I think it was 3-2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The budget I have prepared for you has 4 school resource officers in there, and we anticipate
I was under
some
the
budget.
impression we only had one, so that whenever we were talking about the school resource officer last year in there, I didn't realize that there was one in the sheriff's budget and one in the school's budget.
We had there's the sheriff department, and then there was, right below that was the school resource officer department.
Are you in last year's budget or this year's?
This is next year's budget, but there's a sheriff's department, and there's a school resource officer department.
For the current right there.
Yeah, which we're rolling them all, we're doing away with the school resource officer department. They'll
Was
all be
that-
under sheriff.
Was that established, that resource officer department established for the initial one?
Yes.
So that we could determine the reimbursement portions
Yes.
from the school for the, whatever we agreed on that they would reimburse us for?
That's correct.
Okay.
But the school was reimbursing us with money we were giving them. It really didn't make any sense to do that
We just don't give
going
it to them
forward.
now.
Yeah, we'll just withhold that money now.
Give it to them and wait
Yeah.
for them to give it back to us.
Right.
So in the county budgets, you've got one, basically from this budget, and you're asking for 3 more in next year's budget?
No, there's 2.
No, there's 2 in this year's budget.
Well, the 2 existing and then 2 additional.
There'll be
So
2
we're
additional.
talking
Talking
about
about
4.
the school. The county budget, there's only one.
2.
No, there's
There was
2.
one in that budget, and then there was one under the
Last
sheriff's
year, there
budget.
was one in each department.
I thought it was in the schools budget.
No.
One's in the sheriff's department budget.
Yeah, one's
And
in the
one's
sheriff's
in-
department, one's in the school resource officer department. But we're doing away with that. So there's the one for this year in the school resource officer department.
No, I wouldn't say it was a sleight of hand. I would say.
No, it was a failure for us to realize what was going on.
Well, I mean, the conversation we had the other day was we were talking about one for every school, 4 resource officers. So, and currently we had 2. And the way they did that was, like I said,
The way
it
that you
was
did
originally set
it,
up.
you had one in the sheriff's department, you hid one in the school. We ended up with one, I was under the impression we had one school resource officer last year. Now, that is a hit on my part. Fine. You got over on that one, you won't get a vote from me on these 2. But I'm 1 vote. But that's all right, the public will know it, I will guarantee you that.
Well, I'm not sure what your beef is with that something has been hid.
It wasn't hid, it was in plain sight, we just failed to note it, or I failed to note it.
I can shed some light from the finance side of things. It was, when we initially created the school resource officer budget, it was so we would have an idea for the schools to reimburse us for the first SRO that started 7/1/17.
Right.
And then 7/1/18, like this time last year, there were conversations about adding an additional SRO, but there was not going to be a reimbursement from the schools for that. So at that time, Mike and I decided it was not advantageous to us in finance to put that second one in the SRO budget, put it in the sheriff's budget, because wasn't what they were going to reimburse. Does that kind of shed a little bit light on that?
It sheds light on the process, no problem.
What other questions?
That's the only question I had at this time.
Larry, did you have something else?
I was just unaware we had
Did we get the Piney Creek Fire Department resolved with the 25,000 from last year? We made that change?
We did.
Okay,
I've got a couple of other changes as well.
okay. I've made a note, it's occurred to me or come back to memory about the construction monies for the library project. There was some left, and we have kind of talked about utilizing that, and it can be, it's kind of a narrow use of what we can use it for, but have we talked about trying to use it for the roof portion that's going to be
Yeah,
over the
we are
library?
using
We're
it
gonna-
as part of the roof.
okay.
It's really a $950,000 project, and we're using that other 50,000, and we're borrowing 900,000. There's 58,000 and some change left in that fund, and it's all going towards this project, yeah.
Are we expecting, you're going to propose any fee changes or fees and schedules? I know we talked about
Transfer
some of the
station
transfer
fees, yeah.
station. Are the transportation or the building department, any of those?
No proposed changes there.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I've got looks like we were stopped off just before the Wellness Center. On
Yeah,
page
if I could just go
24.
over a couple of changes from last meeting
ahead.
before we get into it there
All
too
right.
deeply. So, the Veterans Office, Kenneth Vaught, our Veteran Service Officer, he's announced that he is resigning/retiring effective at the end of June. We don't consider retirement, he's not eligible for any benefits, but retirement with a lowercase r, I guess. So, the new Veteran Service Officer will go back to the beginning of the pay scale. Kenneth has offered to work 2 days a week for, however long we need him to help with the transition. He has all of the certifications and things like that run through the end of the year. We want to do that. I would recommend that we add that into the part-time salary line in that department. Again, depending on how quickly we get somebody hired, that kind of thing. This is, a maximum number. It's gone up about $11,800 in that department. The salary and went down on the full-time part a little bit, but adding in the part-time salary. Strongly recommend that we do that. That is a department that, we show every month, we're generating revenue for county citizens. We're bringing in, he's bringing in money. So strongly recommend that we do that. That would add about $13,000, about $11,000 net in addition to that Veteran Service Officer, Veterans Office budget line.
8,000,
About 11,000,
11.
yeah.
Will you start advertising?
Right away, April will get that out in the next day or two, so.
Takes about a year to get recertified, or to get certified,
It does, yeah.
and a lot of that's in Raleigh, or Raleigh and Winston or something.
Right. Kenneth certifications all run through the end of the calendar year, so we at least want to utilize them for that period of time. And we'll see how quickly we get the new person hired and that kind of thing, so.
But with him working part-time, he'll still be able to access veterans' records.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
keep the service going.
Yes,
So this would allow the services to not be interrupted that we
Yes.
currently have. We can still be able to deliver 100% of the services
right.
that we are now.
Right, and of course, this is a maximum. It's doubtful we're going to have the new Veteran Service Officer hired July 1, maybe, but that's a very optimistic goal. So it'll be a little bit less than that. And then we had under maintenance, Ricky Brown, the other Ricky Brown, is retiring as well, and we're going to have some of his duties go to a contractor. Excuse me?
10,500.
Yeah, 500, sorry.
When will his last day be?
His last day was yesterday, technically, so, yeah. So we're going to add $6,700 to maintenance and repair line item 10, 500, 1,500. Let the contractor pick up the BDC building for the rest of the time.
That's the $6,700 that Wills Community College is reimbursing us with the maintenance contract that we talked about at the last meeting.
Then revenue line, we've added a field that didn't transfer, the tax office notary fees. We need to add that as a line, $7,500 in revenue. So that's 10,319,0500. I don't think that was created until we had started into the budget process, so it didn't transfer in. But we'll have that as $7,500 budget line. We've already made, what, $4,000 in,
Since January the 1st.
yeah, less than 4 months. So, state requires you to charge a $10 notary fee on every transaction. That's not optional. So, we didn't factor that into our revenue calculations before. So that's a new line item, and then that leaves us at basically about $40,000 above where we were. So we'd started at approximately $190,000 surplus. We're at about $145,000 surplus right now. So still doing very well there.
That's based on your.
Get you?
That's everything.
What about the social services positions?
Yeah, we added those back in. We've got the updated numbers there. Thank you. That was, the salary would now be 1064073. Total social services line is 1898505. $0.07. Right. Adding 2 July 1st and 1 January 1st. Again, we've got one open position. The chance of getting 3 social workers hired and started by July 1st is very low. So we won't spend quite all of that money. So I hope we can. We need them, but that's a pretty lofty goal.
Ready?
Yeah. We were in special appropriations at
Wellness Center?
Wellness Center.
That's at 10, has been.
Rather reluctant to even attempt to reduce it, considering they're allowing us a $1,
That was my thought
Rental.
exactly.
for the Council on Aging, so I think we better leave that the way it is.
Good.
It has declined a little each year. That's actually the same as last year, but it's reduced over time, so.
That's number it came from was 17.5, I think, down to 10.
It was 27.5, 2017, so it's dropped considerably.
Red Cross, 2,500. Each stamps?
Deed stamps is another item. I would love to roll that into the Register of Deeds budget line item. She has been reluctant to do that, so we'll leave it in special appropriations for right now. But really, it's not a special appropriation. It's part of the Register of Deeds. We collect, there's a revenue line item and we get to keep a portion of it, and the rest we forward on to Raleigh. I understand her perspective. She doesn't want to, she's coming up for reelection, doesn't want to show a gigantic increase in her budget. I understand her point on that. Maybe after this next election, we can roll that up next year, so.
Revenue line.
We keep
40.
a third of it, roughly 40%,
Get the
something
revenue
like
and
that.
not the expense side.
Well, I guess depends how you look at it, you know. But ideally, at some point in a future budget year, we'll roll that into the Register of Deeds department, but.
That's pretty fixed as far.
Well, I guess just based on volume, we went way over budget this year. We collected more than we have thought, but we had to increase the expenditure as well, and that's continued. They're having another.
We don't know how much land's going to transfer.
People are buying, selling property left and right, so it's good. That's a good sign of a strong economy.
Next fund, transfer.
What is an ROD?
That's the Register of Deeds Enhancement Fund, so a small portion of their revenue has to be set aside, kind of like where we set aside for revaluation. That's set aside for like archiving the old records and stuff, expenses to pay for that. She bought a cabinet and something out of that this year.
Like our plaque cabinet.
Yeah, so that's for protecting those old documents. So it's a small portion of their revenue is earmarked for that.
All right, transfer to transportation fund.
We are asking for an increase there. We had to make a budget amendment during this year, and at this point, we have so many unanswered questions about Medicaid transformation and the Medicaid transportation, which is a big part of our budget. We're very concerned and cautious there. Hopefully, we won't need that much, but I have major concerns. We have so many unanswered Medicaid transformation questions right now. I'd rather just eat it
Especially if
now
we
and then have to
expand
do it mid-year, so.
And if we expand it, we're going to get it right on the chin.
Well, I mean, again, there'd be more people eligible for transportation. In theory, we'll get more money from Raleigh on that, but I wouldn't hold my breath and stake my life on that, so.
And I also would reserve this to come back to this line item when we get to the 40 fund. That's, later in the packet here. Because the 40 fund is unbalanced right now. So, and Tiffany Boyer, the department head for transportation, she's more than glad to come speak about it if you all would like her to. So I just wanted to throw that out while we're right there.
All right. Service.
Well, they've asked for the same amount of money the last 4 or 5 years, so.
They spent it. Group homes, yeah, they've spent it.
Any questions there?
None.
Group homes. Alleghany Group Homes, 45,000.
Excuse
Channel
me.
50, 21.
Yeah, that's a pass-through. There's a revenue item for the same amount. Those are grants that we obtain for Alleghany Community TV and pass them through, so there's nothing to do there.
hold some money aside for potential legal need for, I think that was for New River.
Yep.
Board. SRC,
Recommend zeroing. They have their, we've given them $23,333.33 for 15 years. Let them make it on their own now.
Court kick in a little, help them out. They do us more good. Got a lot of things rolling, got a lot of things going on. I think,
Right now, that group's in the best shape it's been in since I've been here. I don't know the history before that, but that group's the strongest it's been since I've been here. But
But if it's that
doesn't
strong-
necessarily mean we should give them $2,000, but
If it's
that's
that strong, they don't need our money.
a very valid point.
and what is, I mean, I guess they have a request in here. What is it for?
They never gave us a written explanation.
It's sound equipment for Music on Main. It's a Music on Main related expense. And that's an event that generates some economic value. Of course, last Friday, we had Music on Main, and we had the Fiber Fest. I can't tell who was here for what, but every restaurant in town was packed Friday afternoon at lunch, Friday evening at dinner. Again, I don't know how much was Music on Main, how much was Fiber Fest. I can't tell you that, but that is an event that, brings in money to the county.
Saturday was, every place in town looked full.
What's,
I'm okay if it's supporting music on
a good sound system, I mean, that really helps the music. I think it brings money in. I mean, a lot of people coming in, and although last weekend was a bad weekend for weather-wise, but
do something about that, Bill?
I was
Oh, it had been-
kind of glad to see the water.
It had been sunny for 2 weeks, and then it rained. Music on, now it's sunny again.
I might look favorably on it. We bring people into the town, and if we add the quarter-cent sales tax, we might be able to make a little bit of money. But at the same time, you've got to look at whenever you bring in Music on Main, you've got overtime for sheriffs and sheriff's deputies, police officers in town, bringing them in. And who's benefiting other than the liquor store and the restaurants that sell beer? If this is such a great enterprise, let them kick in and sponsor. Now, the average widow in Alleghany County that's living on Social Security doesn't appreciate it.
Certainly, our sales tax is growing. We get a disproportionate share of the tax compared to the town, even though the sales occur in town. We still get, it's based on population, we still get roughly 9/11ths of the sales tax. The town gets 2/11ths is based on population. Even if the sale occurs in town, we still get that disproportionate. So it benefits us, benefits the county government more than it benefits the town government. And the town police are they're working the event. So, I mean, we do get, that's a pretty good return on our investment, I feel. But certainly, at some point, we may want to stop appropriating money for the SRC. Certainly that's your all's call on that.
We've got, Bobby, what's your thoughts on the SRC?
The way it is.
You're okay with it the way it is? Okay. All right.
I like Mike, I think we get our money back more than double or triple, or, I just wish we could have more.
Okay.
More events.
It's interesting, we also had the extreme midget wrestling event Friday night, and apparently that had a big crowd. We may be nearing the point in the county that we're about to saturate the live music market, because we have so much live music now. the midget wrestling was a different event. Of course, I know the rain had probably played part of it too. You're not gonna stand outside and watch the concert. You can go inside and watch the midget wrestling. They had a huge crowd. Blue Ridge, one of the Blue Ridge Grill's biggest nights, and
400
he
they
put
said
400
last
and
night.
some on
Yeah.
Facebook. Yeah, so that was a great event there as well. So, but we are nearing, you know, of capacity on live music in the county, so it is good to have some other types of events. But still, Music on Main brings in revenue. Like I said, we get 80-some% of the sales tax revenue that comes in, so
Just think we had that quarter cent.
I know. I know.
But it takes somebody to get these people to come here.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't know, you know, if it's the chamber's, part of their job is to find people to come, individual people that are out beating the bushes to get different venues to come.
Well, Music on Main specifically is solely under the SRC. They have a subcommittee, they booked all the bands, things like that. You know, your headliner, they're paying them $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000, something like that to play. Depending on, I know the band that's coming in July is supposedly the biggest, most popular band that we have this year. Mountain Heart something, they have a pretty good following. I think we paid them more like $4,000 or $5,000, which that's about what, you know, most bands will charge. So, I mean, a good band that'll draw a good crowd, that's what you're going to pay for them. They've raised all that money, and then the sound system primarily was for this band that's coming in July. We also turned on the power at the pole there on the corner in front of the courthouse. There's a meter box there and like 10 or 12 outlets. That was done for them as well. But we're expecting a big crowd. This group has a big following. As long as it's not terrible weather, we're expecting a huge crowd at that July 5th event. So.
I think it's good as far as this year. I think John made a good point, though. Let's ask SRC to go back to the restaurants and the merchants and ask them to chip in next year's budget.
Of course, if we buy the sound equipment, it's bought. Also, you know, they're asking us to purchase some sound equipment. Once we buy it, it's bought. You know.
Okay. Leave it this year. Next one, well, there's some other lines there that apparently don't need any money. And I noticed the Historical Society letter we got. That was interesting. Next one is Partnership for Children. That is, lion's share of that is supporting the Child Advocacy Center.
You still on that board?
I am.
Mark? Are they making good progress on it? Okay.
Usually coming, doing visitation. Questions?
Not on that, but I would like just to go back to the Historical Society. I think people in the community need to know that, you know, that they were very generous in not asking for additional money this year. They wanted that money to be spent in the town, in the county, instead of being given to them. I think that, you know, people need to know that they're very community oriented, and I certainly appreciate what they did.
It's good when some of these organizations can grow up and stand on their own. You know, that's a good thing.
And with them moving into their own building,
Mm.
probably makes transition a little bit.
And they may be back next year. They said, don't forget it.
Yeah. Of course, we haven't been supporting them, but just the
Yeah.
last few years.
Yeah.
Couple of years, so, yeah,
2, I think.
all right. Maybe
That's up in the Economic Development Department. We gave, I think it was 5,000, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure. There in a minute, yeah. 5,000 for the Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center, yeah.
Final number. All right. Contingency Department.
I would like to speak on that. This is something that this $50,000 is, if you all approve this, will be set aside in this contingency line item. This is to cover any small budget amendments that will come before you without impacting the fund balance. So the budget amendments would still come before you. You would still have to, formally approve it or not. And if it's approved, the money will come from that line item right there instead of the fund balance.
Basically, you're budgeting a swag
Trying
so that
to,
we can keep a better handle on the overall budget.
So that eliminates budget adjustments.
Well, the first $50,000 worth
Yeah.
of it.
yeah, the first 50,
Let us
so.
pray they don't go over 50.
Well, we've had a couple of large
It's
ones this
50
year
more
that
than we've
just-
been budgeting for that.
Correct.
Yeah. I have no problems.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it.
If we don't spend it, it'll go roll over.
That's exactly right.
TDA,
It needs,
does it need a little?
it needs some, okay, so one of the things too that I've been reviewing all the revenues in, the occupancy tax that we have on the revenue side is 85,000. We're not gonna make that this year, so I don't think we need to budget that for next year, so I'm comfortable with a revenue of 80,000 for occupancy tax instead of 85, so therefore, need to cut 5 off of the expense side as well. Right now, our revenue is right at $72,000 in occupancy tax as of today.
So where would you recommend cutting the marketing large item?
Yes, that's fine.
Cut it $5,000 down to 7,000?
Let's take it out of the TDA marketing. The TDA marketing large item is they set aside $6,000 each year. And then when they have a large project, they allocate it. So that's 3 years will be the 18,000. So I would feel more comfortable taking it away from the TDA marketing promotional.
This one.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you're saying cut it
Yes.
to what?
$9,850.
I got to get my column straight here. So 9850.
Yes.
I'd go with that.
Occupancy tax is still growing, it just, we got a little overestimated the growth a little bit there.
We're being.
Karen goes to all those meetings, she got a little excited.
Yes, I did. I got a little excited with the money that was coming in, and it just kind of trickled a little bit.
We're confused on the column.
Yeah, all mine are zero
Yeah.
on the.
Mine is
proposed.
2. Mine are 0 as well. So I just have to sit here and write my numbers in.
Okay.
So Mike, is it what's on the screen, what you've proposed to us? Because I don't, how's y'all's?
So all those need to be moved over then.
Yeah, that's requested, but not recommended.
This is one, imported this from the system before our first budget meeting. I don't know why it's zeros on there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that how the number at the bottom comes out. So your bottom number is reflecting something besides zeros here. And
Yeah, it's the 92,125.
I don't have that figure.
That's taking the 5,000 out.
I don't, even taking, all right, 92,125. Okay.
it's basically taking that middle column and transferring it over to the far right column
Less
as
5,000.
recommended, and then deduct 5,000.
The chamber admin will have to come down, because that's 30%, right? That'll need to come down
Yeah,
to
that
24,000.
23,450.
Well, we'll come down, 80,000, 30% is 24,000, right?
We gotta take the audit off of that.
Okay, 23,850, okay.
The right bottom number, you just shifted a number there a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
chamber
We need to-
administration is,
So what's the correct number gonna be?
91,125.
That's correct.
yeah.
That's the.
The chamber
correct.
admin is 30% of the occupancy tax. We lowered that, so we had to lower the chamber admin portion.
A thousand. Trying to make it 92,125 at the bottom.
Back to 90.
Yeah, that's what the revenues are.
Balances.
Yes.
We don't have to
92.
spend it all, I guess.
125. True.
And of course, I think the TDA came a couple of months ago and gave us like their last 6 months of expenditure, so they paid for advertising for Music on Main, they paid for some flyers, some of the trade show booth items for where the Authentically Alleghany, where we went to the Merle Fest
Fest.
and things
And
like
also
that.
the Fiber Fest.
Fiber Fest promotional item, promotional work for that, yeah, so. And good thing it's not normal county tax money, so this is all occupancy tax money, which for the most part is paid by folks from out of town.
5-minute break. Wrap this up.
That's good.
I like the way you're thinking, Mark.
I know. Wrap it up. Put a bow on it.
That's right.
You got some Scotch tape?
Yeah.
We might need some Gorilla
Duct tape. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Think we can get through it
Exports.
today?
I think it'll take us longer than 5. I don't know.
We're getting down to the short rows.
Yeah.
Get some adjust. Got some adjustments on it.
We're
This is-
$50,000 short.
We're $26,000 short. I believe it's
Okay.
26. I mean, you can look on yours to make sure, but we're $26,000 short here. I've got, if you look on your revenue side, I've got 397, 948. Is what we need.
I've got revenue of 343.
better.
Lighter.
All right. Okay, transportation.
Yeah, we need to move that to the next meeting, transportation. We need to get Tiffany in here and talk about a couple of items there. So if you don't mind, we can move that to the next meeting.
Well, I guess we have to save something for that.
That's
next
right.
meeting.
What was the construction expense? Is that,
47 is the outdoor recreation fund, so really there's, that's just carryover. So it's all in appropriated fund balance now.
construction?
Where you seeing construction, I'm sorry?
I'm going down,
Under 47, I think,
47,
47,400, 1,000.
yeah. 47,400, 1,000.
That's any construction projects for the outdoor recreation fund. And
We just break the fund down into construction projects and equipment equipment expenses, just different line items there.
it doesn't literally mean, like building a building.
Need to move over to the last line?
No, the outdoor recreation fund, it is more like a project fund, so it rolls, whatever's there 6/30 rolls over 7/1. So that's why all those numbers are zero.
So,
Those are zero, and they're supposed,
and now we go to the fairgrounds.
You've 49 is the library project fund. We just talked about that 58,000. We've actually now spent that. So that'll be
have
zero
49.
for next year now. It was not at the time the budget was prepared, but we've actually spent that money for paying for the HVAC equipment, so that'll be zeroed out as well. The Fairgrounds Fund, Fund 50. We need to trim $200 from that to make it balance, so we'll just take it out of the maintenance repair line item, make that 19,700.
Over and above the stuff we did this year?
Yes.
$73. There. Oil and water.
Up for travel, isn't it?
There was not a budget submitted for this, so what I did was put the expenses in the eco enhancement line item to where as expenses come up, we can do line item transfers to move it to the other lines as we need it.
Okay.
That's basically the,
Yes, that and the bank service fees.
Yeah, this was during their transition with interim director, several new board members, and we did not get a budget submitted for them.
290.
Mhm.
Problems?
That's those cost share agreements. They roll 2 or 3 years, so we put them in this fund so we can roll them from year to year. Most of the contracts are 2-year contracts. We were learning this morning. Most of them are.
Drug fund.
Some of them are 5-year contracts, right?
Next one, drug fund. Are we good there?
Again, one of these days, we're going to get a big budget amendment when we get that $150,000 we've been promised forever.
Yeah, but
But,
that-
you know, till then, we'll proceed without it for now.
With interest?
E&H
Yeah,
fund.
right.
We wish.
What's the E&H fund?
Excuse me?
E&H fund, the next one?
That's the Register of Deeds Enhancement Fund
Oh,
that we
okay.
were talking about earlier.
All right.
A good number.
It's out of balance.
Let's see.
Peter Ton.
Your book fund?
Pictures or less, that's actually
Yeah.
okay. So
No, it's still gotta be in balance for the audit.
Oh. we need to go.
Up or down? 100, 15?
That's 51, we need to go up, isn't it? 5985, here we go. We're adding $985 to that expenditure there, so it balances out. 63, the
D&H.
Register of Deeds Enhancement Fund.
Next is the,
Library.
Your book fund?
Yes, that's where they purchase, books for the library and do like the summer programs for the kids and everything.
The revenue comes from Books and Friends, right?
And plus, they get a lot of
And their
donations
fundraiser,
too.
yeah.
Yes, uh-huh. So,
again, we have
I do too.
all zeros on our
Right.
proposed. Back to that one.
We'll come back to that one.
Request equals, now,
A couple comments that I have here is she has, one of her explanations is she was going to purchase a vehicle for an appraiser because we're doing reval in-house. She has already accomplished that task. So at the bare minimum, I feel like the capital line item needs to be reduced by $24,000 even. And this is information that is on your all's sheet right here.
I concur with that.
She thought she was going to be able to wait until July the 1st, and that ended up not being the case, and so she purchased it just here in just the last few weeks.
212-222.
172.
212-222. We have
You go.
we have plenty in there to get through our revaluation. So we talked about as we move to a shorter reval, we may in a future year have to up that from 40,000, our annual contribution, but we've got enough to get through this reval, so.
The next one there.
The School Cap Reserve Project Fund. This is where the mandated portion of the sales tax gets transferred over from the general fund to here. Then they also have a fund balance appropriation, and I'm waiting on one more expense from them to know what that fund balance appropriation is. Any day, literally.
We'll come back to that one, yeah.
All right. Brings us to transfer facility. We want to
I
come
have
back
a
to it too?
huge, no, I have a
Okay.
huge positive change.
Hey.
Yeah. Yay!
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's some good closing information.
That's right. Salaries. When I was working on the salary spreadsheet, I had, we got several employees that are split between the general fund and the transfer facility. I had in error put one of the transfer facilities at the general fund percentage, which was more. So I caught it and have updated those numbers on my paper. So the full-time salary needs to be 203,631. And that will also create a little difference on the FICA and the retirement line as well. I'll add those up right quick and tell you those numbers.
Well, I didn't have-
I have 16,798 for FICA. And then.
Yeah.
219.
16,638.
16,798
$790.
for FICA. I have 19,916 for retirement.
Okay.
Going. All right. What else on the,
Now we just need to balance them. Because they were originally out of balance before we did all of that. And so now they.
Out of balance to the positive.
Right.
balance them?
Like a transfer to balance or something.
Big fun about.
Graded fund balance in reserve. I mean, in reverse.
The questions on the line items, while they're looking at that. Are we getting a loader?
Permit fees.
Those would be
For that.
The capital purchase. Capital loader. Wonderful.
I believe that's what that's for. The permit fees,
We have 2 permits that we have to purchase annually to operate the transfer facility. If we don't have them, they shut us down.
I'm gonna get you. We getting a new loader?
Yes.
I thought we just got one.
We have 2. We're replacing the
3?
second old one now. No, the other one is completely shot at this point. It's not,
Go down all.
yeah.
Why do we have to get a loader that size? Can't we get one a little bit smaller? Jeez.
Is this the one that's used,
Push it into the truck
It
and
does.
then pack it.
The packs, and the packing it is what I understand is to get the weight in, You gotta have something that big, the way we're doing it, unless we change our whole process, which
I agree.
What
I've
about
always
rental?
been challenged with,
What about renting one? Then we can get the maintenance done on it. Lease it, instead of renting it, lease it.
We can take a look at that. We have not explored that. but we
where
can.
is this, where's this being paid from?
We have it, we're going to borrow the money within the transfer facility fund. So it'd be borrowed money. So there's a revenue item for the loan proceeds, $150,000, and then expending it in the capital line item there. But we can certainly explore a lease.
Well, testing,
We are mandated, once
Yeah.
again, by the state to,
got us over a barrel, it's mandated, and we're paying $24,000?
we have the quarterly testing, and there's actually like, part of the quarterly test is like $1,500, $1,800, something like that, and then we'll have semi-annual, I think, I don't think it's quarterly, we'll have, bills that test for more stuff, and they're closer to, like 8,000 or so.
Good job.
The report is like this. I mean, it's,
I put the last one in your board packet at some point in the past. It was quite
big one.
lengthy.
yeah.
I know you read it line for line,
I
Larry.
slept for days.
That's up on disposal, Pete.
Yeah, disposal of wood products. How much revenue are we getting from our wood products now? Any?
Yes.
Not breaking even, though.
No.
No, not by a long shot.
Gap between.
We didn't charge for mulch at all for a long time. We've charged some the last couple of years. But no, it doesn't break even. But it keeps it cheaper than putting it in the trash, but
We took in a lot of
Well, burn it.
construction houses on 21, didn't we? From the road construction, some of those houses.
yeah,
they tore down.
we've had a ton of brush
Yeah,
this year with the two hurricanes.
Can't
you know.
burn any of that.
No, the houses they get
I
hauled
mean,
down the mountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not burn, but grind it.
Yeah.
This can only be, I understand it, actual
Good.
tree debris and that kind of stuff.
White goods removal, we're no longer being reimbursed under a grant for that, are we?
No, we're not. All we get on white goods is the white goods tax.
Are we charging for what?
We, by state law, we cannot because of the white goods tax.
So nice of them.
We need to take them all to that guy that lives down 2 doors, to the corner of the road there, at that corner of 18, the guy has all the refrigerators in his yard. We need to take them there. Let him have them.
I bet-
Yeah,
It's in another county, I hope you're talking.
What do we do with wastewater disposal? What is that?
That is the leachate that drains from the pad. There's a collection tank under there. We have to, that could be contaminated. We have to dispose of it in a certain manner, so. They clean that out about twice a year, and
Most of
Yeah.
that's on my shoes.
most of the team's sitting there throwing up, and Mark's sitting there eating a sandwich while they're cleaning that out. That's the worst smell on earth. It's 6-month-old garbage water.
I'm okay.
I'm okay. If we can lease, if we could look at the cost of the lease.
What was your bottom total after we made those pay adjustments?
157,897.
I agree, I would like to see any options and all options on and the life of that thing
Well,
seems as,
I checked, they're up to about 13,000 hours, and that thing runs all day. It's very seldom, I would guesstimate that they have that engine running 6 hours a day,
I'd say
every
that's,
workday.
our
that's
pad is
48
really small.
That is
Yeah.
48 hours a week.
Yeah, one garbage truck fills our pad completely.
Yeah.
And we have to push trash, or one truck from Cranford or whoever, that fills the pad, and we have to push trash quite frequently.
Other questions on that one? Okay. It's right at 5 o'clock. I don't know about y'all, but we don't have much left here, but we've got to revisit.
Do, and
Everything there.
I would think so, unless county manager has something
Unless
else.
the, one of the presentations takes significantly longer than we
If it does,
expect. yeah.
we'll stop it. And
But I mean, we start at 9, I think certainly by 12, we should be done. I
and we'll
think we
need
should
our
be.
fees. Do you?
We have our fees that we need to review. We also have the full-time and part-time pay scale. We also, then there's a couple more little things to address. One of them is where I had asked about a reclassification for a position in maintenance for the purchasing. I do have the job description and the cost of that as well, whenever y'all would like to talk about that.
Regular buzz.
I am so sorry.
I will draft the proposed budget ordinance tomorrow and get that out to you guys as well before the next meeting, so, as it would look today.
Right, just so we'll have.
Fresh copy of everything.
Well, I'm talking about the ordinance that we would adopt, not the
Oh,
spreadsheet. I'll give you a draft of the
The
ordinance.
actual document we'll be voting on. I want to back up. We had a presentation, I think the first day, from Alleghany Riders and an ask, and I don't think we actually had a conversation on that. The ask was 1,300.
1,300.
We need to have that conversation where you all are on that, what you want to do with that.
I think that's going to be under the Art Council presentation.
That'll be separate.
It's
This is their own request. The first day, Ginger Collins was here, and
Yeah.
Dr. Mellows.
She, in one of the letters, I believe she said that it was left out of the Arts Council request, so I figured it was under them, so they're a completely separate organization now? Okay.
A couple of the same board members, I think, but they are separate organizations.
Y'all want to support that group?
To me, that is a pimple on an elephant's fanny, so, yeah. I have no objection. As far as the
I think we
money,
have
not
a
the
unanimous.
organization.
I'll have to approve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not in our paper.
Like, yeah, they don't have a line item.
Yeah.
I have to
Looking
create them
at
a new line
$18
item.
Yeah, we
million,
haven't given them money
1,300
before.
isn't even a decimal.
Anything else?
I'm just curious about the way that we're going to handle or approach the softball, baseball possible addition. I don't understand why we just don't go ahead and propose it or not propose it for this budget. So at least he can get his bids and get started as soon as school gets going.
I thought we needed
It's going to
additional
come from
information.
Beamer.
Yeah. He's gonna do a little more work and come back with a little more information for 2 versus 4 fields. Just- He is, and we might be able to do it. But I think it makes sense to look at the options,
Okay.
because if we utilize some of these monies, recreation monies, and can leverage them possibly for a grant so that it can, get more for the money that we put into it. It may not be the case, though, but we should see, I think, and I think that's where everybody
Well,
is.
the ball fields makes a lot more sense than a splash pad at the
If you need
pool, in
something,
my
I got
opinion.
Yeah.
So,
I'm following your suggestion.
Put something else.
These are the job descriptions. Do you want me to hand them out now for y'all to review them between now and the next meeting?
That'd be good, yeah, go
What
ahead and
is
give them
that?
to us, job descriptions that she was referring to a minute ago.
I would appreciate it, but I've got a fairgrounds meeting at
Well, we're not gonna
5:30.
cover them, just take
Yeah.
it with you
Okay.
on your own, and then we'll have it to, bring it back with you,
Right.
yeah. And that's all.
One quick thing before John gets going, I'm concerned about the maintenance at the fairgrounds. The condition of some of the buildings and the grounds themselves. I don't know if we need to look at having more money put into the fairgrounds.
Well, part of the problem that we were going to run into that we'll be discussing tonight, if we are going to have, if we are going to rent spaces, and we are going to allow the renters that are going to go into the male and female heads, we have got to rewire them, because right now, the lights come on off the circuit breakers inside of the concession stand. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, if a female wants to go over and use the shower or the facilities, she has no way of turning on the lights. Either the lights stay on full-time or otherwise. Now also, whenever you go to that concession stand and you look at the right-hand side, just in front of the men's toilet, that is your dump station. How'd you like to be ordering a hamburger and 25 feet away, someone's dumping their contents out of their mobile home?
Well,
He's
The
talking
other
about,
thing
he's talking
is,
about maintenance,
part of the-
other things, just general maintenance and upkeep.
yeah, the bathrooms, part
Oh,
of them
on top of
don't
it.
work, the urinals, part of them don't work.
Well, now,
The shower curtains were
redone
laying
all
on the
that.
floor.
The ladies has got 4 or 5, I understand, it's not.
Yeah, we had 2 or 3, when they put the toilet, they had to take the toilets off to do the flooring, to put them back on, the seals were damaged, but we've got the equipment in there now, it just, Jeff has to get in there and put those back in.
If memory serves me correct, because I got on to Jim right after that, they've ordered shower curtains, because there wasn't any shower curtains, and they have ordered combination locks, so that,
And both of those have been accomplished. I've seen the invoices for
The
both of them.
equipment's in, we just haven't gotten it installed
Well-
just yet, so.
Some of the things are being done, but there may be others.
Yeah.
But
No,
let's-
we found a few more little areas we need to work on from Fiberfest this year, you know, the power in the barn. They used, you know, the electricity in the barn, we didn't have quite enough power for all the sheep shearing and Angora rabbit shearing and all that was going on, so we may need to do a little upgrade there as well.
Let them meet tonight, and let's, whenever we meet back on the 19th, maybe we can revisit this conversation, and maybe between now and then, we'll have had a time to assess where some of this stuff's been done.
on the power, part of the problem with the power, they have maxed out. And if they run another phase off the main power line in, 75,000.
All right,
So we're right on the edge.
we will go ahead and recess at this time until Wednesday, the 19th at 9 a.m. Thank you all.
Okay.